You know, wrestling fans sometimes never cease to amaze me. I watched the Royal Rumble, and it wasn't the best Rumble. There were issues with the Rumble. It wasn't the best show ever. There were issues. There were obviously decisions they could have made and gone in a different direction. But I saw discourse in the last couple of days, online, of course, because anytime I talk to somebody outside of the internet, the opinion is usually not going to be reflective of what's online. And I saw people that were upset and did not understand why Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. Now, I obviously predicted CM Punk would win the Royal Rumble, and I wanted Punk versus Cody in the main event of WrestleMania, right? I didn't get what I wanted. However, what I am not going to do is I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't understand why Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. It's very, very strange. Jey Uso has gotten himself over in the past 2 years. Actually, when you really think about it, the past 3 or 4 years, and has elevated himself from being a tag team wrestler to truly becoming main event Jey Uso. He's main evented multiple PLEs. He has got the crowd behind him, and if you don't believe me, go watch any episode of recent wrestling when he comes out. He's gotten the yeet chant to be like part of everyday wrestling, every show, and he's been involved in some of the biggest stories of the past few years, like the Bloodline, his feud with his own brother, his cousins, obviously the feud he had with Sammy and Kevin when he was teaming up with Jimmy, and he is one of the top 5 consistent merch sellers, and at one time the top merch seller. So if you're going to sit there and say, I'm pissed off that Jey Uso won, it should have gone to blank. Okay, fair. There's different ways they could have gone about it. I'm not going to sit here and say that you were wrong, but the reasoning is weird. One person I saw say that he had the worst match in WrestleMania last year, and I agree with that. That is true. Him and Jimmy definitely was a letdown. However, Jey has improved. Jey in the ring, I don't think has really gotten his moveset together. I think he's still sort of developing that. And I think he's going to have to develop that in order to have a solid match. So all of those criticisms make sense. However, the idea that taking a guy who's never been in a singles main event at WrestleMania, or at least, I would say the Jimmy match was somewhat high profile. Maybe not as high as it should have been. But getting a guy who's never won the Royal Rumble and letting him win the Royal Rumble, pushing him, a guy who's been in the upper mid card for a while, and now really cementing him as a main event single star, I can't remember that being a bad thing, man. I mean, I saw many Rumbles won by many different guys like Alberto Del Rio and Sheamus and guys like that. And the whole reasoning behind them winning the Rumble was to make them main event stars. Now, did their main event runs last? No, not longer than a couple years, but you still have to try. You still have to try to push new people. Obviously, they could have gone in there and had somebody really, really unexpected win the Royal Rumble. Because with Jey Uso, that was already very unexpected because nobody was expecting it. I didn't see nobody predicting it. But you could have had an LA Knight win the Royal Rumble. You could have had even a guy like a Penta win the Royal Rumble, and that would have really been out of left field. But they didn't do that. They went with a relatively safe pick, because here's a guy who is a top merch seller. He comes out on Raw last night and he gets all choked up because of the reaction he's getting from the people. He's got the whole crowd doing the hand thing. He's been doing that for a couple years now, the up and down yeet hand thing. He's got the crowd in the palm of his hands. The audience has spoken. They're giving the people what they want. But what did I see on the internet? Oh, he's 39. In case you haven't paid attention, almost every popular wrestler in the company right now is either late 30s or over 40. That includes Cody Rhodes. That includes Roman Reigns. That includes John Cena. I saw somebody say they should have given it to John Cena. Jey Uso's in his late 30s. Okay, bro. That makes a lot of sense. And again, it's funny because Jey, is a guy who got over organically. He's the guy who talks the way he does. He has a different manner of speech. The yeet thing, like nobody's done that before. Like he got himself over organically. You know what I mean? He was put into good positions and he grabbed the ball and he ran with it. Were there better wrestlers in that Rumble in ring? Of course there were. Were there bigger names that could have won? Of course. But Jey Uso is far from being the worst pick to win the Rumble. Now, my concerns about this WrestleMania build are not really with the Jey Uso story. You see, the Jey Uso story is a Cinderella story. He just got beat by Gunther 1 week before the Royal Rumble on Saturday night's main event. And I think that may throw some people off. Like, this dude just lost a world title match. But that, if that was the plan from the very beginning, it's very similar to what they did with Cody and Roman, just in a shorter span. Cody won the Rumble, got a shot at Roman at 39, lost, came back, won the Rumble again, got it the second time. So Jey Uso losing to Gunther and coming back and defeating Gunther at WrestleMania, if that's the plan, is the Cinderella story. Except with Jey Uso, I would say he's even more of an underdog than Cody was, just because Cody was already an established main eventer and, for a longer period of time, and the chosen one, whereas Jay's push was one that you couldn't have seen coming a couple years ago. Like, even though he was main event Jey Uso, you couldn't see him winning the Royal Rumble, but when they did it, it's like, okay, that's a pleasant surprise. What concerns me about this WrestleMania build is not the Gunther Jey Uso match, because I think the match will be good and the story of him winning the title will be good. That's fine. I'm more concerned about the other side. I'm more concerned about the fact that you've got John Cena, who said he was going to be on TV all year this year. He's already going to be off television until the Chamber, so that's, besides the one appearance on Raw and the Royal Rumble, he has not been on television for January and February, so it's not exactly what I was expecting when it comes to that. Possibly going into the Chamber and winning and going against Cody Rhodes. That's the part that really, really is, in my opinion, worse, because while I like the story of Cena coming back and trying to get one more title run, the Babe Ruth, the legend coming back for one more big game, it's a very easy story to tell. It's one that I thought they should have done with Cena and Gunther. I think it's going to be a little silly that you've got a guy who has not won a match in 4 years or however long it's been. Not winning the Royal Rumble is just throwing somebody over the top rope. It's a different skill set. John Cena's going to have to pin some people in the Elimination Chamber, including active wrestlers like CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and guys like that. I'm not saying he's going to pin those guys, but in order for him to win the Chamber, he has to get a pinfall win. But here's where things get tricky. If John Cena goes into the Chamber and let's say all the other guys pin each other and it's down to like one guy and John Cena and Cena wins with a roll-up, it's going to be one of those flash lucky wins and people are going to say, well, there's no way he can beat Cody with that. And see, that's the problem with this story, is that they haven't established John Cena as being a killer, but if they establish him as being a killer now, it's almost too late. See that, and that's where they've kind of, in a way, booked themselves into a corner, and we're going to have to suspend our disbelief. I don't think Jey Uso winning is all that crazy. I think John Cena winning the Elimination Chamber in comparison to Jey Uso winning the Rumble is far more preposterous. John Cena's over 10 years older than Jey Uso. Jey Uso's actually won some wrestling matches. Cena hasn't won one in forever. I really hope that they have a plan. I really hope that they have something that they can really, like a really captivating storyline or a captivating promo or something that's going to get people to believe that John Cena has a chance of beating Cody Rhodes, especially after the way that Cody Rhodes smashed up Kevin Owens. And that's something else, too. Kevin Owens was very deeply hurt last night, or 2 nights ago, I'm sorry, 3 nights ago at Royal Rumble. Comes out last night, closes the show by beating up on Sami Zayn, which of course is going to set up Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania, which I think I said was going to happen. Like they're running that one back yet again. I wonder what stipulation it'll be this time, because that's one that they've done. I mean, you know the history, man. Kevin Steen, El Generico, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, the forever frenemies, friends and enemies, going all the way back to the mid 2000s. They've done a long feud in PWG. They've done a long feud in ROH. They did one in NXT. Did a few in WWE. Now this time, Kevin is going to go back to being the heel, and Sami will be the babyface. So it's a match that I know is going to be good, but it's also one that we've seen before. And that's been the real issue with this WrestleMania build, is that Jey versus Gunther, even though we just saw the match a week ago, is still more fresh than some of the stuff they've given us, and still perhaps a bit more interesting. I think that the mistake they made was they blew off too many of their storylines too soon, and they have to sort of hit the reset button a bit, not entirely, but a little bit. And instead of them going with the Punk Seth match for Mania, which I really wanted, they did that on the first Raw of the year. And Roman versus Solo, which was planned for Mania, that was also changed. And Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. These were months and months and months and months and months of storylines that were blown off on television before WrestleMania. So if they go with a Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair program, which is the rumor, they're going to have to and they did sort of tease that a couple of years ago, they're going to have to rebuild that story and start a new story. And now with Charlotte coming back, and they're teasing that she has to pick who she's going to face, it'll probably be Tiffany Stratton. That's a new story as well. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with new stories. It's just that they had so many other stories. And it looks like the Bloodline chapter might be put on break for a little while, because they're not going to do Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu. It doesn't seem like that's the plan. Jacob Fatu didn't get enough moments in the Rumble with Roman, I don't think, to really justify that. And that is the match that I wanted. So I think there's a lot to criticize about this year's build, but Jey Uso winning the Rumble is really not one of them. It really isn't. So, anyways, those are my thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why do you think people are mad that Jey Uso won? Like, is it because they wanted someone else to win? Or is it really because of the dumb reason that he's too old and didn't have a good match last year or whatever? Like, I don't know. What do you think? Let me know.